Welcome to the Packsack Project, where we explore the resilience of rural and indigenous communities in Northern Ontario. In today's episode, we're excited to introduce you to Chef Tammy Maki, the talented owner of Raven Rising, an award-winning chocolate business based in Sudbury, Ontario. Chef Maki is a proud Saulteaux Ojibwe Kwe from White Bear First Nation in Saskatchewan and a certified Red Seal journeyman pastry chef and baker. With a rich background and experience working in renowned restaurants, resorts, and bakeries across Canada, she's embarked on a journey to create a perfect blend of traditional and contemporary flavors in her chocolate creations. So sit back, relax, and join us as we embark on this delicious journey with Chef Tammy Maki and Raven Rising. Well, today I'm joined with Chef Tammy Maki at Raven Rising. Chef Maki, thank you for joining us today on the podcast. Can you start just by sharing your journey and how you got into making chocolate and really what sparked that interest for you?
Hi, thanks for having me. Journey's been a long journey. I started kind of as, just going to school and as an apprentice, and then you pick up all kinds of skills along the way. Not much chocolate making skills apart from, the first couple of years at the Rimrock, but after that, it's not something that pastry chefs really focus on. But in essence, it is like getting that ultimate one bite with an ingredient, right? Especially in the small bonbons. So it's a challenge, and that's what I think makes the most out of somebody's career, is constantly challenging yourself. I get bored easily. So one thing about owning a business is it certainly keeps boredom at bay. Chocolates are science and art and just everything that you could think of that I find exciting and interesting, and it gives me so many options. The options are infinite. So how could I not get into it? How could I not start it? It was just like, I don't know, maybe finding the husband of your dreams. I happened to find the business of my dreams.
Mm-hmm. And so when you were going to learn how to be a pastry chef, did you ever think you'd open the business, or were you just originally thinking that you would work for someone else as opposed to being an entrepreneur?
Well, when I was in school, my dream was actually to go work down in Las Vegas, and specifically at the Bellagio. I held the pastry chef there, very high regard, very brilliant man. And I actually took a trip down to Vegas and met him in person and went through their pastry kitchen. It was just like, it's bigger than most people's shopping centers. It's just massive, right? And it was so interesting. But as I got into my career, I found that large, hotels and resorts, that's one aspect of it. And then, there's mom and pop bakeries, and there's Five Diamond restaurants, and there's family restaurants, and there's just so many variations that I just wanted to learn everything. So my career was constantly evolving. I would go someplace and I would absorb everything that I could from that place. And when I thought that I couldn't absorb anything new, I knew that it was time to move on. I had a very fluid career. I've been very lucky. The people that I've worked with and for, some of them helped shape me a great deal, and others not so much. But definitely it gave me that experience in that environment to make an informed decision about where I wanted my career to go. I'm a very kind of black and white person. I like things a specific way. I don't like to be boxed in. It just makes me completely unhappy. And Unfortunately, working for other people is definitely a major box to be put in. So I tried many times, and I knew that I wanted to open a business. I did have one previously, and I was doing pastry consulting. So filling in for executive pastry chefs or helping people put together menus or, building pastry kitchens or, whatever they needed. And I was making, stuff on the side. And I'd actually started to play with chocolate a little bit and found it quite interesting. And then COVID hit. And I lost my other business. And I went, well, that was quite interesting. And in a way, it was good because it wasn't going really where I wanted it to go. It just didn't have any momentum for me. So, lots of time to sit and think during COVID. And, I really, really took what I learned from the previous business and throughout my career and thought, what can I do that is going to be a successful model during COVID, right? I'm not going to be able to open up a storefront. How am I going to sell this product? Well, Amazon can do e-commerce. Why can't I? So I did a lot of research, picked my target market, opened up a corporation, got together a website with my pricing, and then October 2020, I opened. And I guess so far the rest is history, right? It's been awesome, and working for myself, definitely. And you're never really ever working for yourself. There's always bosses. Your customers are your boss, right? And there's so many of them. It's just that there's more appreciation, I think, for what you do, because it's not vocal appreciation per se, but it's because the people are ordering because they appreciate what they see, because they're ordering from you again, your repeat customers, right? They're buying for their friends. It lets you know that what you're doing is appreciated. And, I love feeding people. It's what I want to do as a chef and as a person, right? So yeah, it was a heck of a career and taught me everything I needed to know. But yeah, definitely I needed to be on my own.
Yeah. Now, I did see a video from you winning an award from Canada Post that highlighted entrepreneurs across the country. In that video, you said at some point that your business took on an indigenous identity where you saw your role more clearly as a knowledge keeper and a storyteller through chocolate. Are you able to just share maybe one story behind one of your creations?
Well, I think one of the most indigenous chocolates that I've done that really kind of brought a very deep meaning to me was a cedar chocolate. And I was thinking of cedar is sacred to us as Indigenous people. And I really wanted to represent it in a way that it's important to me that when people look at something, it represents what they're about to put into their mouth, right? I don't want to have something bright purple if the ingredient is pink. It doesn't make any sense. I want it to really represent that specific ingredient, and people eat with their eyes as much as they eat with their palate. You have to make both happy, of course, right? But that initial reaction of, oh, that looks really interesting. Ooh, I really want to eat that right this second. That makes you salivate, and your mind, your palate, everything is ready for it. That cedar chocolate, I actually saw a paint technique by somebody over, I don't know where they were, Hungary or something. So when I do bonbons, I do things that represent the ingredient. There's hand painting, there's all kinds of paint techniques. It's like, individual little art all the time, right? And when you think of cedar, you think of green, and it made me think of like walks at my cottage, and I wanted to capture that kind of the foresty feel of the cedar. So it was green and black, and you think of a color scheme like that it's not going to represent really what you want, but it couldn't have been more perfect. And I was so thrilled with how it looks. When I do tasting events, they're one of the chocolates that I always offer, because they are so representational of so many Indigenous culture. The information that I pulled in when I started doing more research just outside of my area, and that's everything that I want for this business is not just Indigenous, but global Indigenous. Remember that box I spoke about earlier? I don't want that box including Indigenous. Indigenous are global. We're everywhere, right? The ingredients are everywhere. The stories are everywhere. But for me, that cedar was the essence of Indigenous to me.
And so, in this global marketplace where you're getting ingredients from many different countries, how does that extend to the relationships that you have with your suppliers? And how is that aligned with your values?
What I know about my Indigenous identity is pretty much self-taught, self-learned. Um, I grew up in a Finnish family, and thankfully, and very oddly, Finnish people and Indigenous people in Canada have very similar appreciation of nature and whatnot. But I wanted to learn about, of course, specifically where I'm from, but I also wanted to explore, because I've never had a set community, I wanted to really explore Indigenous as a whole. And I have friends that I've worked with in my career, and they've been from all over the world. And I really wanted to focus on making people aware that how much they're eating that is an original Indigenous ingredient. Chocolate itself is one of the oldest Indigenous ingredients in the world, and easily recognizable, right? But people don't think of it like that. It's just chocolate, right?
Mhm.
So it's so awesome to be able to map my own path, not only as a business person, but as an Indigenous person. And there's nobody telling me that I can't do it, or telling me how to do it, because this is my own journey, and how I'm learning about things and the stories that go with everything is awesome. I support other Indigenous business and people, and I try and include other Indigenous business links in my tasting notes in the boxes.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. I have people, emailing me from Australia and New Zealand and like Germany. And it's just like, wow, and oh, we heard about this and we've been on your website. And they send people here to the shop, right? It's astounding to me that my journey is interesting to others, and that I'm thankful I can represent that in something that that I can share easily with other people, right? And that they can easily relate to.
And with the product being chocolate and the amazing artistry involved, I would assume it would be more for a direct to consumer for sales. But is there some business to business sales that goes on as well? And has that evolved over time?
Yeah, so when I started, I thought it would be just direct to consumer as well. But shortly after I started selling, I was contacted by a Hamilton co-op and started doing some business to business. And I've been very lucky since then. And I've gotten some amazing B2B partners. And I just actually started at the Fairmont Chateau Laurier. I'm providing their VIP amenities for them. So I'm very happy about that. I do a lot of corporate and special events, so special orders. And obviously the e-commerce is it just keeps plugging along, and I absolutely adore that. I do like, I still love the direct to consumer e-commerce platform. It's a phenomenal platform. Um, but I have a small storefront now as well. Storefronts take a lot of work and energy, but it's also different because I get to really interact with everybody. My kitchen is open to the retail side, so people tend to yell at me when they come in, but I'm hearing impaired, so if I'm working, I don't usually hear them, and then my retail people just say, if you need her, we'll get her for you. But anyways, yeah, it's just I think, as with anything, it's constantly evolving, and you have to be able to not only evolve with it, but pre-evolve, to think ahead and to plan that you always need to capture more audiences. And so my next step, I was doing online Zoom tasting events, and I still am, but I'm also going to start doing some in-person, in-house tasting events at the shop. And actually, I'll be doing some collaborations with other businesses here in Sudbury. I'm hoping to expand that to businesses pretty much everywhere. Yeah, so it's exciting. Every single thing I do, I love. Oh, okay, I'm lying. Every single thing I do, I love, aside from the paperwork.
Yeah. So, as you were getting started, and now as you're expanding, has there been any organizations or business networks who've been pretty vital for your development going through this?
Oh, absolutely. Luckily, I forged an early friendship with Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada, as well as Indigenous Tourism Ontario, and also a small organization called Rise. Um, this was when I opened my previous business. So in order for me to be, to have started this business successfully, I took everything I learned that Rise taught me, which was a lot of the financials and the business plans and everything, right? So Rise helped me with that. My progression into Raven Rising, Indigenous tourism certainly was a massive contributor to, how I kind of moved things along, and networking, right? So during COVID, it's really difficult to network, but it gave me, a very, very solid network foundation. So I'm very happy for that. And of course, I've joined, countless other organizations, so that it's good to branch out and to ensure that you've joined municipal and provincial and federal organizations. There's so many different layers out there that as a small business, you have to take advantage of everything that you can.
Yeah. And of course, food has a regulatory framework that's pretty complex as well. Now, are you looking to export your food products at some point? Do you have any plans for that?
I'm hoping, but of course, there are 8 million hoops I have to jump through. And right now, quite frankly, I don't have the time. Um, I would like to build perhaps an export partnership. Exporting like the small bonbons just wouldn't be a feasible thing because of best before dates. Like shelf life for bonbons is about 6 to 8 weeks, not because they go bad in 6 to 8 weeks, but because they start to lose their flavor. So the whole idea is not to become a generic bonbon, right? It's to have those ingredients that are different in them. So if I did anything, it would have to be a partnership with somebody that has, a working licensed kitchen somewhere that can follow recipes and be able to do exactly what I do. So that's something that I have to look at, but there's a lot of research and just tons of stuff I have to look at before I even think about taking those steps. So it's a little bit different if you're doing like one jarred product or something, and it's much easier to do that than doing something like what I'm doing. So I would like to, but I think at least for the next year, I'm just going to focus on continuing to build the way that I have, and progressing even more within my set market.
And you do have a larger social impact through several initiatives that I saw that you're contributing to. And I saw that you're contributing to a scholarship for Indigenous students with George Brown College. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, it's actually a scholarship for Indigenous students in the baking and pastry arts. So Indigenous people are severely underrepresented in any trade. I was in the electrical trade, oh my God, long before Indigenous or women were in trades, or before there was classifications for us in trades. And, I was the only female on a job site probably for the first 17 to 20 years of my path down there. So I really would like to see that change. And I would like to see people's perspective and understanding of Indigenous people change, that there are positive, role models out there, and that it's not all the negative stuff that has been fed, throughout the years. So I think that supporting knowledge, learning, supporting a trade is super important. And I couldn't think of anything more important. Actually, one of my mentors is the head of the Culinary Tourism Alliance, and her name is Rebecca McKenzie. And she's actually associated with George Brown. So we had actually discussed a scholarship, and because that's where she's associated, then for me, it was kind of a no-brainer to, start the scholarship there. That doesn't mean it's always going to be there. I can move it wherever I'd like. I can add to it if I like. Again, everything evolves and changes, right? But it's definitely important to me that I support the next generation of people interested in the pastry trade, and I'll do that any way I can.
So, Chef Maki, how do you envision the future of Raven Rising? Is there anything further you would like to have within your present shop that you've just opened up in Sudbury?
Well, I think my shop really, it plays a pretty small role, I think, in the impact that I have, aside from, I think, maybe within the community. And quite frankly, I'm just getting known in the community because I've only been open since September of last year. COVID, right? That ugly word that keeps rearing its head. But this shop actually inspires me to be more artistic. I leased a shop that is 100 years old. It was originally called the Capitol Theatre here in Sudbury. I have original travertine floors and beautiful original domed entranceway. And in my kitchen, there's original like ceilings as well. And when I came in here, it was just such good zen. I went, oh my God, I want to make things in here. I want to create. Your surroundings are super important when you're an artist, I think. So this was the place for me. I looked at other places and it was just, I couldn't get my mind out of here. So in a way that has a massive impact, and it allows me to be more creative. I think as insofar as the business and what I strive to do and what it is that I represent, my surroundings are not so all important as actually representing the product and the ingredients and the business like the way that it should be, right?
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts, Chef Maki?
Yeah, I just, I'd like people to think about what they eat on a daily basis and about where exactly those ingredients that you're making for supper came from. Because like it's such a phenomenal journey, not only taste wise, but story wise. And there's so many interesting and like just wow moments when you look up things about how a specific food got its name or where it actually originated from. Like some foods we're eating originated in Egypt, right? Like that's whoa, mind blowing, right? So like if you're sitting down to supper with your family, take one of those ingredients and do a little research before you sit down and talk to your kids and say, do you know that this came from this country in the 1700s? Do you know how long ago that was? And make it fun and make it interactive and, talk about things with them and make it so that they want to go and they want to hit Google up and do some research or hit an old-fashioned encyclopedia. Food is not just about eating, it's about learning.
Yeah.
Chef, it's been great talking to you, getting to learn more about your enterprise and the larger impact it's having in Canada. So thank you very much and keep up the awesome work.
Thank you so much. Have yourself a great day.
To wrap things up, we'd like to thank Chef Tammy Maki for joining us on the Packsack Podcast and sharing her inspiring journey with Raven Rising. Her dedication to sustainability, ethically sourced ingredients, and the celebration of Indigenous culture through her chocolate creations is truly remarkable. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Packsack Project, brought to you by the Rural Agri Innovation Network, Nordic Institute. We hope that the stories and experience shared today have inspired you to make positive change in Northern Ontario.